Hello Tech Pros, episode 164.
Treat everyone properly. Everyone has lives. Everyone has goals. Everyone has things. Everyone wants to get a little bit better than they were the day before. So you need to help all that.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology. Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Eric Fisher. Happy Wednesday, Eric.
Thank you, Chad.
Are you ready to lead us through this interview?
I am.
Awesome. Eric Fisher is the .NET content author for Code School. He has over 10 years of experience as a software developer. And Eric, I think you just recently launched a new module there on Code School, didn't you?
Yep. So we've released the Try.NET MVC, where you'll learn ASP.NET MVC. We are also releasing the Forging Ahead with .NET MVC at the end of this month.
Awesome. So tell our audience, what is Code School? What is that all about?
So Code School is trying to fill in the skills gap where you can learn various programming languages, primarily web technologies. So it's not like a degree program, but it's for, you already have some technical expertise or some programming knowledge, but you want to learn something else. Like you want to learn Ruby or .NET or whatever your choice is. And we fill in that gap. But we do so in a way that's entertaining.
Gotcha. Cool. So are you a full-time content author there? Are you an employee of the company, or do you just submit your own resources, your own content, and more like an affiliate program for them?
So I'm a full-time employee for Code School, dealing with all their .NET content. So, yep.
That's awesome. So today is Leadership Wednesday on Hello Tech Pros. And Eric, as you know, it's really about the difference between a horrible boss and a great leader. Now, we've all been in these positions where, man, either a one-time example of just a bad behavior, or just a completely horrible boss that we work for that was just just horrible, every sense of the word. So what I would like for you to do is to tell us that story, your personal story of your most horrible boss. Now, don't name names. We don't want to throw people under the bus. We don't want to get personal about this stuff. But what we do want to do is learn from the bad behaviors and flip it around and see what we can do to try to be more effective leaders.
So for my example, I'm going to use just a terrible boss situation. So I was working with a company where what ended up happening was, for 1 week, I came in at 39 hours and 45 minutes. And I got pulled into my boss's office basically telling me, hey, you're coming in 15 minutes short last week. What's the deal? You can't do that. Now, that'd be one thing if I was like an hourly employee or whatever, but I was salary, and the week prior to that, I had put in 58 hours. And
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, you're really going to nickel and dime me on 15 minutes when I just put in an extra 18 hours over what the expected amount is.
Wow. So you were a salaried employee. You had a really busy week of 58 plus hours. They didn't give you any bonus. They didn't give you any overtime.
Nope.
And it sounds like this individual maybe did not call to attention. Hey, Eric, I saw that you put in such great work. You were so productive. You cranked it out and you hit the deadline. You did whatever you were supposed to do. And the world is safe because of you. He didn't do that the week before, right?
Right.
Right. He just called you out on being 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Wow. Over the course of 40 hours. Now, was this a situation where you had timesheets and you were putting down your hours, or was this something where they were like actually watching the clock or looking at your like badge numbers when you badge in?
So we actually had timesheets there, which was interesting for me because I hadn't worked in a job where we actually kept timesheets for like when you're in and out. I've seen projects you keep timesheets just so you can bill and everything. In like 8 years prior to that, I hadn't worked a single job that had timesheets, which was jarring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are tough situations to be in. Man, biggest pet peeve ever in a leadership role, actually in a software development role also, has always been timesheets because they just get on my nerves. So from a like project perspective of needing to know how much time and effort and money it really costs to get something done, so that we can build repeatable processes and we can see, okay, this is the true cost of ownership of this software, this service, or this product, or whatever we're trying to build or support. I totally get it. Like, I understand why we want to track time, not to, in my opinion, not in this case, like to belittle Eric and say, "Gosh, Eric, you only put in 39.75 hours. You suck," right? No, but to see, okay, if everybody is doing rockstar status and everybody is staying here nights and weekends and not tracking that time and not saying that they did that extra effort, then we really don't know how much things cost, right? So I understand that we need to kind of track time for that way. But on the other hand, dude, if you're docking people for being 15 minutes late, we're professionals, and it's give and take, and it's in my opinion, it's supposed to be about the overall experience, the overall work effort over the course of, months and years, not like a 15-minute thing. That's crap.
Right, and this wasn't even like a trend or anything. It was arguably what you'd call a first offense. Yeah, like tracking project time makes total sense. Like if I start a project, I track the time, but the time you walk into the door versus leaving, that really only matters is if there's like failures to get work done, or if you're only putting in like 4 hours a day or something awful like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, track the time to get stuff done, but people are salary people. The idea is at the end of the week, did the work get done?
Okay, so what was your response to this horrible moment when this boss said, "Gee, you only put in 39.75 hours"? What happened?
So then? I'm a very outspoken person, and I will take people to task. So I pretty much did exactly what you'd expect and said, "Are you really dragging me into your office over 15 minutes after I put in an extra 18 hours last week? Making miracles happen."
Mm-hmm.
And there was backpedaling. Lots of it, but of course, the respect was lost, the trust was dinged, and all that.
Goodness. So it sounds like they didn't even recognize that you had put in that effort. Was it just because they didn't know how big the efforts were and didn't know that you were up there working, or they just kind of conveniently forgot that part?
They conveniently forgot that part. We had our payment processor decided it was time to change their API. And so it's kind of like, oh, we have to fix this right now or all revenue stops. So that was the reason for the 58-hour week, was getting all that together on the 11th hour.
So the leadership style, was this kind of a recurring thing? Have you seen this across the whole organization, or did you feel like this individual was just really picking on you for some reason?
So this was a trend with that individual in the organization. I don't believe the organization at large had this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a lot of salespeople and those guys who are, call center and all that. So they really kind of did have to stick to a schedule to make sure people are at the phones. And I get that part, which is probably where it came from.
Right.
But there was difficulty with the individual just because it was a culture thing when it came to the way he ran the department.
Yeah, I think. I come from a software development background, so I get it. Right. It's about. For me, it's about creating a shippable product that customers love, and it's engaging, and it gets the job done, and it meets all of the requirements for all of the stakeholders. To me, it's not about punching the clock and watching the time. Sometimes I put my headphones on and I get lost in the code, or I'm not coding very much anymore, but back in the day, I would get lost in the code of just like trying to refactor something, trying to solve a hard problem, just get stuck in an area. And for me, when I'm in the zone, I literally cannot unplug from the computer and turn everything off and just walk away right in the middle of like a huge debug trace, right? I am going to track it down until I get to no pun intended, but a break point, right? A break
Right.
point where I can actually take a break from the business, take a break from this mindset that I'm in, and step away and go do something else. And sometimes that's, oh, you know what? I'm an hour and a half late. Oh, you know what? I'm 20 minutes late. No big deal. That happens. But the opposite side of that, I expect, because I am a professional and I do get lost in the code, and I, like you and I will go in after hours and fix things whenever, the office is on fire, the APIs are busted, all the third-party support stuff is broken. Sure, we'll put in that extra effort because that's just what you do, right? That's what being a professional is all about. But as a leader, man, you gotta give people that credit. Some jobs, especially these type of jobs that you and I are talking about, it's not about really when you're sitting in your desk. It's about being productive and getting stuff done.
Right. And on the extension of where you were mentioning, once you get to like that fifth layer deep on debugging something, when you're at the end of your day and you have, 10 minutes till the supposed time you're supposed to wrap up, you're like, I'm not going to start this, or I'm going to be here till, 8 p.m. I'm not behind on a deadline. I'll just pick this up in the morning. Mm-hmm. It kind of works on both ends of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, okay, if there's 10 minutes left in the day, I've actually fallen into that trap a couple of times. Okay, there's only 10, 15 minutes left in the day before it's like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever like the norm is to go home, and I'm like, well, I'll just take a peek at the next requirement. I'll just take a peek at the next bug, and then what happened? Then my wife is calling me saying, "Hello, are you coming home or are you going to camp out there?" Oh, gosh, it's late. Well, was there a problem? Was there a situation? No, I just literally. I thought it was about 15 minutes worth of work, and I got lost in the problem, and here it is 2 hours later. Sorry, honey. And so now I'm backpedaling and apologizing to my family who they have lost time from. But I'm not going to apologize to my boss or to my office for being 15 minutes early or late. Either way, that's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Cool, man. What was the culture like for the rest of the people in the organization? Were other people kind of complaining, or was this something that was brought up as, what, we are professionals, we want to work a different way, or was everybody kind of hush-hush about it?
So to a certain degree, most of the department was hush-hush about it. I kind of became like the unofficial team lead because I was the only one willing to, take people to task, go to the boss and say, hey, this isn't right. But ultimately, things did not change much there so far as staff change, like people got tired of it and left.
So I'm very interested on what you just said. So a couple of things that you said earlier. You said you have a natural tendency to call people out on their BS, right? And to speak up, and you're not shy. You're not afraid to say, that ain't right. Or, hey, here's an idea for something. So it sounds like the rest of the organization, or there's a majority of the people in the organization that don't feel that way, that don't speak up and don't say their mind.
Right. That's the way it was.
Do you find that kind of across the board in software development or in IT, or was this just kind of an exception?
I feel it depends on the culture of the company, because there are some companies, and it's not like the company goes out of the way to be this way, it's more of a result of the shape of the company. Mm-hmm. There are some companies where you feel like your individual voice doesn't necessarily have power, so why bother talking? Versus other companies, you feel like, you can make a real change in the company by just, making your voice heard. And in this particular company, you felt like you had no power for the most part, which wasn't true, but people get stuck in that situation mindset.
Yeah, I hear all this, or I have heard a lot of lip service in the past, earlier in my career, of, we have open door policies. I have an open door policy, come by my office anytime. But that was what was said in staff meetings, in like the fireside chats and the big staff meetings and the big town halls. But really, when you go up to the director, or you go up to the VP, or you go up to, the senior manager, and you say, hey, can I grab 5 minutes of your time? It's like, is it on the schedule? Do you have an appointment? Is this an emergency? I've got stuff going on. It's like, wow, gee, thanks for opening the door and being open to something I wanted to chat about. I really feel engaged and inspired right now.
Fortunately, I haven't run into too much of that, but I have run into like the open door policy where it's like, yeah, I might as well talk to a wall there.
Mm.
There was talking, but there was no listening.
So tell us about let's flip it around because we've been talking about a lot of negative stuff. So what are examples of great leadership? Maybe the opposite of what we just talked about, the opposite of what this boss did. What would you like to see great leaders do to really inspire and engage their team to really pull out the best of them?
So for the flip side, culturally, like my current job with Code School, the culture is like the polar opposite of what I ran into there. And so I'm not, no names and all that, even though this is a positive thing, I'm sure they would take credit for it. But where, when something wasn't done at the previous job, they expect you nose to the grindstone. It doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m., keep going. In this company, it's like, hey, it's rolling up on 7 o'clock, you should go home. It's you've done your time for the day, pick this up in the morning.
Gotcha. So there's just a culture where the management team themselves are really looking out for your best interest and really saying, "Hey, Eric, you've already put in enough work. Like there will be more work here tomorrow. Leave some for tomorrow. You don't want to kill yourself."
Right, because ultimately you do 2-3 weeks like that where you really nose the grindstone and you become utterly worthless because your brain is just fried and you need detox time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you seen that there at Code School where people get like, just like overworked, right? Just because you've got deadlines, you've got some courses you need to crank out, and then how did your management kind of react to those individuals? Do they, give extra time off, or do they really make sure that the people leave and go take care of stuff, or what happens?
So there's a mix. Like one of the things is, if it's not on fire, when you look at deadlines, there's soft and hard deadlines. Soft deadlines can be moved and there's very little to no effect. And then there's hard deadlines, which if, they move, there's dire consequences. And so they recognize all that, but like what they'll actually do is as you are going through a task, they'll be like, do you have the resources you need? How are things going? Do you have the resources you need? How are things going? And if you fall behind, they will try and find more resources to help you if possible. They'll also, again, like I said, if you're there at 8-9 o'clock, again, if it's not on fire, they're gonna be like, all right, you can go home. Just get out of here. You need you time.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. When I feel that the people that I'm working with, the people that I'm working for, are looking out for my best interests and not just looking out for their own best interests, I really feel I just feel loved, all right? I feel engaged. I feel like this is really the team that I want to be involved in because it's not just a bunch of pencil pushers who want to eke the most productivity or the most number of hours that they can get for the cheapest rate as possible, but people who are really looking out for me as an individual.
Right.
Awesome. So, Eric, in just a moment, I want to ask you about maybe what we can do if we're in that position where we are kind of the spokesperson for the team, as you kind of find yourself being from time to time. What can we do to help the other team members get their voice up to management? Maybe if there's some folks who maybe a little bit shy, maybe have a little bit of social anxiety, or maybe just don't want to speak out. What we can do to kind of help their voice get heard in a variety of different environments. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Eric Fisher. Eric is the .NET content author for Code School, which is an online resource for learning different software development methodologies. And he's got 10 years of experience as a software developer. And we talked about different experiences that Eric has had over the course of his career, some with very positive management teams, very positive cultures, like at Code School, where he is now, that really are engaging the employees, are looking out for their best interests, or telling folks, hey, you know what, it's time to leave. Like, it's 7:00. Like, you need to go home because this is not a fire you need to put out. There will be plenty of work to do tomorrow, and we don't have a hard deadline coming up, so you're good. On the opposite side, we talked about really horrible bosses and people that talked his time 15 minutes late after putting in an extra 18, 20 hours the week before, fighting some fires and resolving some things with broken APIs on a third-party system. So Eric, we talked about sometimes we have individuals on the team that are a little bit more shy. They're a little bit more reserved, maybe a little social anxiety, or just they don't want to speak up and have their voice heard. Sometimes it's because, as you said, the culture of the organization just kind of squashes that communication, right? There's not a true open door policy. They really don't want to listen to your problems, don't want to listen to your suggestions. They just want you to just shut up and do your dadgum job, right? And then other organizations like Code School, they got a great environment. They're really supportive, but we just have sometimes folks don't speak up, right? Sometimes we're just a little shy. So you are not a shy individual. You are not a reserved individual. What would you do in that environment to help bring out the ideas and the concerns from those individuals that maybe are a little bit hesitant sharing?
So depending on the personality of the individual and how I might approach it, like if someone there are individuals who do not like to discuss conflict, do not like to create conflict, like for any reason whatsoever. And I don't believe you can really get that person to speak out for themselves easily. Like if there's an anonymous thing, maybe they will. But in those cases, the best bets I've usually found is either have that person who is good about speaking about stuff take the message for them. Or, and the other thing is get a group setting where, again, you can kind of rally everyone. Because if I'm speaking as a group versus speaking as an individual, you're a lot easier to get people who are more reserved on saying things to be vocal about it.
So can you give us an example of that, of what this group setting would look like, where we are all rallying behind an idea when, I don't know, maybe it's kind of polarized. Maybe some of the environment really feels strongly about this, and other people feel strongly about a different way, or maybe there's just a lot of people who aren't aware or don't really care about the situation. How do we bring that up and foster that communication?
Right. So an issue I actually have gone through with multiple teams to try and implement is unit testing. Proper testing is better than having Dave in the corner test whatever when you're done. Mm-hmm. So in those environments, one of the things is you have to get team buy-in, because everyone's going to have to maintain this stuff. Everyone's going to have to, at least for the majority, say yes, or it's not going to happen. So usually what I'll do with that case, I'll try and get some type of meeting scheduled, which usually isn't that bad, because you're like, hey, there's this thing we would like to do. We believe it's going to improve the quality of our work and potentially improve efficiency. You can usually get a boss to buy in on that. And at that point, you kind of have to rally people. And before those kind of meetings, you are strategic. You want to walk around, see kind of who's for, who's against, what the concerns are. That way you can address concerns, address pain points, as well as promote the benefits and things that people would like. Now, when you have those one-on-one conversations that, just casual sitting at someone's desk, people are a lot more willing to be more honest and more vocal about, this is something I like about, this is something I don't like about it, versus when you sit them in front of your boss and say, hey, what do you think about this? The person tends to be less vocal if they're a shy person, because, they don't want to upset the boss. They don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset the boss. We don't want to look like we're being confrontational, nor do we want to look like we don't know all the facts. Boom, thunder rolls here in Central Florida. We don't want to look like we don't have the answers or don't know what's going on. So I like the idea of kind of having the meeting before the meeting, having those one-on-one conversations with maybe not everybody on the team, but maybe a few key stakeholders that, have some ideas or have some concerns about this area or have some just great examples of what we need to do, kind of surface those and get conversation, get buy-in, and kind of see where people are leading, then go into the meeting and talk about it. And then you're going to bring out those personalities, bring out those ideas a lot more effectively.
Right. And plus, then you can actually talk like, say one of your individuals says, "Oh, I think this is going to take too much time." You can start that dialogue before they even say anything, saying, "Yeah, there's the concern of this," and go from there. And that will get that individual to be able to speak up, because now you've addressed a concern that they have. You've already put it out there. They're just kind of latching onto the concern that already exists.
Yeah, I love playing devil's advocate in a lot of situations, especially when I know that there are some deep-rooted concerns that other people have around the table. And if there's any of my the old coworkers listening to this, they're going to be laughing because they know that Chad is going to say something about something that people are feeling, right? Like, hey, there's not enough time to do this. We've already got 50,000 projects that we're working on. When are we going to find the time to do this? Yes, it's a great idea. Yes, we need to implement something like this, but what's going to go, right? Is it going to be our time? Is it going to be our lives? Is it going to be our spouses and children? Or is it going to be one of the other projects that we can get rid of so that we can focus on this new shiny object? Right. And it seems like once I say that and get kind of, I don't know, a little bit contrarian about something, but in a positive professional manner, then there's other people who are likely to say, yeah, what he said. Yeah, I don't want to stay late. Yeah, we do have too much going on. And then other voices come up, right? Because they weren't the first person to kind of put their neck out on the line and be a little vulnerable.
Right. I mean, and when it comes to like sticking your neck out and doing that to try and rally the team and help things and improve your working situations, the way I always looked at it is if I ever did, which never happened, if I ever did run into the boss who's like, "All right, this guy's a troublemaker, get rid of him," then that's a job I didn't want in the first place. So right. he or she has done me a favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, if you are that manager, if you are that horrible boss, let me know as soon as possible through your actions and through your behaviors that this is not the environment that I want to work in. And I will happily move on to something bigger and better and allow you to have someone come into my place that will put up with that BS because it's not me. I don't know. I'm getting a lot more crusty as I get old. Back when I was a young software developer at early 20s, I was just so happy to work in the field, right? I was so happy just to get the chance of getting paid. Like, dude, I'm getting paid to work on this stuff that I would happily do for free. And so I ended up actually putting up with a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have. Not to say that I had horrible bosses, but there were times when a great boss had a horrible behavior, or I took something a horrible way and didn't stand up for myself. And so now I'm very much an advocate for the people on the team and an advocate for the individuals that work for a company, not necessarily the company themselves, right? Because I want to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody has gotten their work done and has been productive and met their objectives, but more importantly, they're growing as individual people. They're growing as leaders. They're growing as software developers or server admins or whatever they're doing. They have a little bit of flexibility and freedom to go out and explore and experiment and try new things in a safe environment where they're not going to get just torn apart publicly or privately because they tried something new, nor are they going to get torn apart because they were 15 minutes late when, on the other hand, they put in 20 extra hours the week before.
Right. I mean, your employees are going to treat the company the same way the company treats the employees. So it does go both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Employees are going to treat the company the same way that the company treats the employees. So maybe if you're a leader out there, if you have some employees, and you don't think they're putting in the effort, Maybe you need to take a look at the effort you're putting in to them, right? A lot of times, I know I felt constrained and conflicted when I was in a management position at several different companies, because you're not necessarily the person who is setting the ultimate direction and strategy for the organization. You're just trying to help fulfill it and get it accomplished. Yet, you're also not the individuals in many cases that are actually contributing to the individual work effort, right? You're kind of being this go-between of, here's the vision. Now, we got to take that vision and strategy and break it into the tactics, into the standard operating procedures, into the product designs, into all the other stuff that we need to do to get it done. But I'm not going to actually be doing the work. It's going to be a group of individuals here in the office or remote that's going to be working on that. So how can I serve both parties, right? Am I working for my boss, or am I working to help my employees get their jobs done? And sometimes that's a tough position to be in.
Right, especially in the cases where, the person over top says, I need you to move the earth, and the team below says, we're going to need 1,000 hours to move the earth.
No, I want it by Monday.
Exactly.
Next quarter. The earth will be moved next quarter, because we've already given a presentation to marketing about it, and they're printing up the flyers.
Yep.
Well, Eric, I want to be respectful of your time. So before we go, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience? The best ways that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Just for the final wisdom, this is kind of going on to the comment about, treat your employees the way you would, as a company, would like to be treated. That is a real thing, and it does go both ways. As the employee, you need to treat the company well if you expect the company to treat you well. So, basically, treat everyone properly. Everyone has lives. Everyone has goals. Everyone has things. Everyone wants to get a little bit better than they were the day before. So you need to help all that. As far as reaching me, my Twitter handle is Eric Fishor. So instead of an E at the end, it's an O, just because someone beat me to Eric Fisher. And that's usually the best way to reach me.
Awesome. Eric, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this conversation, and the story that you shared, man, that's a horrible story. That's a horrible behavior that boss showed, but we've all been there. But more importantly, I appreciate the lessons that you shared with us about, if we're in that situation, you know what, you can't stand for that. You can't put up with that. You got to call people out, right? We should all have the integrity to do what's right, and that's what's right for the company, but it's also what's right for the employees too. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
No problem.
Tech Pros, if you are in a situation where you are a manager, you are a leader, you are a boss, and you are in charge of timesheets, right? This is a tricky situation, because sometimes HR puts these rules on us where, because of the stupid way that the financial software works or whatever, everything has to come up to a well-rounded number, right? Everything has to add up to 40. Okay, well, have conversations with your employees if that's the case, that, hey, guys, before we start working on our timesheets, just realize that everything has to add up to 40. And so the timesheets that we send to HR is not necessarily reflective of the time that we're doing at work, right, on these projects. And so maybe this sucks. I know it's horrible, but maybe we need to have two different things. The timesheet that you send to HR, which is just like an automated thing that you don't have to fill out. It's just magically, automatically comes up with 40 every week. And then we have a real project timesheets that is reflective of the work that we're putting into our new projects and the work that we're putting into the maintenance stuff and all the administrative things, so that we know exactly how much time and money it costs us to get everything done, with the goal of, we can send that back up to management for them to prioritize the things that are most important, and so that we get to work on the things that are the most valuable to the company, and not just another thing, another fire, just because they think we got extra time. Thoughts? Anyway, give us some thoughts. Give me some feedback. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. You can go to hellotechpros.com/164. This is episode 164, and leave me some feedback. And leave Eric some feedback, and appreciate your time. You've been listening to Eric Fisher, and I'm Chad Bostic, and until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/164. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Leadership Wednesday, but tomorrow, my featured guest and I talk about technology. On Friday, people and communication. Saturday, entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. And then next week, we kick it off with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity. And then we're back again on Wednesday to discuss leadership. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.